The instant the basement lights died, Emily grabbed me so hard her fingernails cut through my shirt. One second I was reaching toward an old metal cabinet. The next, the room vanished into blackness, and something scraped behind the wall. Not a mouse, not a pipe, a slow, deliberate drag, followed by one shallow breath that did not belong to either of us. Emily pressed against my chest and whispered my name like it was the only solid thing left in the room. I held one arm around her, raised my flashlight with the other, and saw a narrow door standing open where I could have sworn there had only been brick. Mud marked the floor. A man's boot print pointed toward us. Then the beam caught a gloved hand disappearing into the dark passage beyond. I had lived next door for 3 months. I thought Emily was asking for help with a strange noise. I did not know someone had been entering her house, watching her, and waiting for the exact moment she trusted me. Before I tell you what we found, like this story, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, when fear and trust collide, which one would you believe first? 3 hours earlier, I had been standing in my kitchen, eating reheated chili, straight from the pot, when someone knocked on my back door. Nobody used my back door. The front porch faced Alder Street, a quiet row of old brick homes on the south side of Pittsburgh, and the alley behind us was mostly trash cans, sagging fences, and one orange cat that treated every yard like disputed territory. I set down the spoon and looked through the glass. Emily Carter stood under the porch light with her arms folded tight across her sweatshirt. She was 24, 4 years younger than me, and usually carried herself with the calm confidence of someone who could rebuild a staircase without asking where the instructions were. That night, her dark hair was pulled into a loose knot, and there was sawdust on one sleeve. Her face had gone pale. I opened the door. "You okay? I need a favor." The words came quickly, but her eyes shifted toward her house next door. "What kind of favor?" "The kind where you bring a flashlight." I glanced past her. The upstairs windows of her narrow Victorian were lit, but the basement windows were black. "What happened?" "I heard something downstairs." "Your furnace?" "No." She shook her head. It sounded like someone moving furniture. Then I noticed she was holding a fireplace poker. "How long has this been happening?" I asked. 3 nights. That erased the smile before it formed. "Did you call the police?" "And say what? My basement is rude after midnight?" She tried to make the joke land, but her voice broke at the edge. I checked the exterior doors. They're locked. The windows are latched. I just need someone else to hear it, so I know I'm not imagining things. "Give me 1 minute." I grabbed my work flashlight and jacket. When I returned, she was staring toward her kitchen window. "Did you see something?" "No." She tucked the poker under one arm. "I thought the curtain moved." Emily restored old furniture for a living. She had inherited the house from her grandmother the previous spring, and planned to turn the basement into a workshop, the first permanent space for a business she had been running out of rented garages. I knew that much from conversations across the fence. I knew she preferred coffee so strong it looked dangerous, hated plastic hardware, and sang badly when she thought no one could hear her through an open window. I did not know why her hands were shaking. The basement door stood beside the refrigerator. She had wedged a chair under the knob. "You put that there?" I asked, after the second noise. "And it hasn't moved?" "Not that I can tell." I removed the chair and opened the door. A wooden staircase dropped into yellow light. The air smelled of wet stone, old dust, and machine oil. "Stay behind me," I said. "I invited you into my house. I'm not hiding on the stairs." "Then stay beside me." "That I can do." We descended together. The basement ceiling was low enough that I had to duck beneath copper pipes. Emily had already cleared half the room for her future workshop. A workbench stood against one wall, and the other half remained crowded with her grandmother's things. Trunks, shelves, a rolled carpet, an iron bed frame, and a tall metal cabinet streaked with rust. "Where did the sound come from?" She pointed past the cabinet. "That corner." I swept my flashlight along the stone wall. "Any animals get in?" "Not unless they know how to move a steamer trunk." I looked at the trunk near the wall. Dust outlined a clean path behind it. "You moved that?" Emily's answer came quietly. "No." A soft knock came from the other side. Emily stopped breathing. I raised one finger for silence. The knock came again, then a scrape. That was when the lights went out. The furnace died. The room fell into complete darkness. Emily made one sharp sound and grabbed me around the ribs. "I've got you," I said. Something shifted behind the wall. I clicked on my flashlight. The beam shook once, then steadied. Where the cabinet had stood flush against the stone, it now angled outward. Behind it was a narrow wooden door, painted to resemble the wall. The door was open, Mud marked the concrete. One boot print, then another. A gloved hand vanished into the passage. "Hey!" I shouted. Footsteps pounded away. I started after them, but Emily's grip tightened. "Daniel, don't leave me. No signal," I said. "There's never signal down here." I handed her the flashlight. "Keep it on the opening." "What are you doing?" "Finding the panel." The main disconnect had been pulled down by hand. I pushed it up, and the lights returned. Someone had killed the power from inside the basement. Emily stared at the hidden opening. "That wasn't there." "It was. You just didn't know. I have the original house plans. Old houses collect secrets. So do people." We called the police from the kitchen. 2 officers arrived, searched the tunnel, and found that it ended at a rusted hatch beneath the vacant house on the other side of Emily's property. The hatch had been forced recently, but rain and old debris had erased anything useful outside. No one was found. "Any reason someone would want access to your house?" the older officer asked. Emily looked at the floor. "No." I saw the pause. The officer saw it too. "Any former partners? Family disputes? Contractors with keys?" "No one with a key." "That isn't what I asked." Her jaw tightened. "My ex-fiancé knows the house. He moved to Cleveland last year. Name? Caleb Ross." After the officers left, I screwed a temporary brace across the hidden door and installed a motion alarm from my truck. Emily stood in the basement doorway, watching me work. "You don't have to do all that tonight," she said. "Yes, I do." "Why?" "Because a chair under the kitchen door won't stop someone who knows another way in." She folded her arms. "You always this bossy?" "Only when someone is standing barefoot on a freezing floor after finding a stranger under her house." "I'll be next door," I said. "Call me if the alarm makes any sound." "Any sound, Emily." She walked me to the back door. "Thank you. You would have done the same. I would have brought a hammer. You did bring a fireplace poker. It has reach." I smiled. She did too, but when I stepped outside, she caught my sleeve. "Daniel." I turned. "Did you really hear someone breathing?" "Yes." Her fingers loosened. "So I wasn't imagining it." "No." At 7 the next morning, Emily appeared on my porch with 2 coffees and a paper bag of cinnamon rolls. She made a joke about my terrible coffee, but after we sat down, I asked about Caleb. "He liked being needed," she said. "At first it felt like love. Then he started choosing my clients, correcting my memories, and telling me which friends were bad for me. When my grandmother got sick, he pushed me to sell the house. I refused." She looked at her hands. "One night we argued about the basement latch. He locked me down there to prove I was overreacting. 10 minutes. He called it a joke. I had a panic attack, and afterward he said I was unstable. Anger moved through me, hot and useless. That was not a joke." "I know." I ended the engagement 2 weeks later. He said he moved to Cleveland, but he still sends emails. Apologies, accusations, more apologies. Save them. I have. I wanted to ask more, but her voice had drawn a line. "Okay, you told me enough." Her shoulders loosened. "Most people keep pushing. I'm not most people." That afternoon we installed a steel latch, a battery camera, and a motion sensor at the tunnel entrance. Emily corrected the angle of my hinge and smiled for the first time since the blackout. Behind the old cabinet, we found a brass coat button marked HU. It did not belong to Caleb, but it proved someone had been using the passage recently. For the next week, checking the basement became our routine. I rewired the future workshop. Emily repaired an oak chair I had inherited from my mother. We ate dinner on overturned crates and learned the small things people usually reveal only after months. She wanted to build furniture that would outlive its owners. I had moved to Pittsburgh after leaving my brother Marcus's company in Columbus. I told her we had disagreed about business. I did not tell her the disagreement involved altered inspection reports, forged signatures, and a redevelopment proposal called Alder Row. I told myself those facts were behind me. One evening, while we tested the new lights, the power flickered. Emily froze. "Look at me," I said. "The door is open. I'm right here." Her breathing slowed. "I hate that Caleb still gets to do this to me. He does not choose what happens next. Easy for you to say." "No." I looked at the concrete floor. "When I was 17, my father had a heart attack in our garage. I heard something fall and waited because I thought it was a tool chest. He died in the ambulance. Since then, every unexpected sound makes me think someone needs me, and I am already too late." Emily stepped closer and covered my hand with hers. "You were 17. I was old enough to open a door, and I was old enough to know Caleb was cruel, but he repeated his version until I believed it." Cruel explanations can feel true when you hear them long enough. Her thumb moved across my knuckles. I looked at her. She looked at my mouth. I leaned toward her. The motion alarm chirped. We sprang apart. The tunnel door was still locked, but the outer sensor had been triggered. Police found fresh tool marks on the vacant house hatch. Someone had come back, and this time he knew we were waiting. The next morning, a black SUV parked in front of Emily's house. Marcus stepped out wearing a charcoal coat and the expression he used when he wanted a room to believe he owned it. I saw him from my front window and felt the past catch up with me. Emily opened her door before I could cross the yard. "Miss Carter?" Marcus asked. "Yes? I'm Marcus Hart. Hart Urban Development." Emily glanced at me as I approached. "You two know each other?" "He's my brother," I said. "What are you doing here?" "Business." He turned to Emily. "My company is acquiring several parcels on this block. We'd like to make you an offer. My house isn't for sale. Everything is for sale at the right number." "Not everything." Marcus handed her a folder. "The offer expires Friday." He placed it on her porch rail. "You should also know that our engineers have concerns about the shared retaining wall behind these properties. Old foundations can become dangerous quickly. Your company has no right to inspect her foundation. We inspected the vacant parcel next door. The conditions affect all 3 lots." Marcus looked at me. "You would know that if you still answered your phone." Emily's eyes moved between us. "What exactly does your company want to build?" "Townhomes, retail, parking. The kind of investment that increases property values and removes old houses," Emily said. "Some structures have reached the end of their useful life." Her voice cooled. "Mine hasn't." He walked back to the SUV. I followed him to the curb. "You knew I lived here," I said. "Of course. You sent the realtor the listing." He buttoned his coat. "You needed a fresh start. The neighborhood needed an electrician who could appreciate its potential." A cold line traveled down my back. "Did you send me here because of this project? I helped you buy a good property. Don't turn gratitude into paranoia. Stay away from Emily. It is always about something with you." He opened the driver's door. "Tell her to take the offer. The retaining wall is a real problem. Once the city gets involved, she may wish she had accepted before the price changed." When I turned, Emily was standing on her porch holding the folder. "You never told me your brother was buying the block," she said. "I didn't know, but you knew he was a developer." "Yes. And you knew he had business in Pittsburgh." "I knew about a project, not the location." "What else didn't you tell me?" I should have answered fully. I should have said Alder Row, falsified reports, and the reason I no longer worked for him. Instead, I said, "Nothing that affects you." She picked up the folder and went inside. 2 days later, she returned with the original blueprints. "I need your help," she said. We spread the plans across my dining table. Emily pointed to the rear foundation. "The tunnel is not marked, but this wall is." It was built as part of a shared service corridor in 1928. The vacant house, my house, and yours were connected to a common coal delivery route. We found it behind a plywood panel near my water heater. Unlike Emily's hidden door, mine had been nailed shut decades ago. I pried it open. The passage beyond sloped toward the same junction. Emily shined her light down. "You said you never knew about the tunnel." "I didn't. Did your brother?" "I don't know. That answer is becoming a problem." I faced her. "You think I let someone through my basement. I think your brother found your house, moved you next door, and arrived with a purchase offer after someone started trying to frighten me. I think you have not told me the whole truth." "I left Marcus's company because he was altering inspection reports," I said. I told her everything then. We had worked together for 6 years. After our father died, Marcus had become both boss and substitute parent. I had trusted him even when he cut corners. Then I discovered my electronic signature on 3 reports I had never approved. One condemned a warehouse days before Hart Urban purchased the land at a reduced price. When I confronted him, he claimed an office manager had made a clerical mistake. I demanded an audit. Marcus accused me of disloyalty. I sold my share and left. The project name was in a proposal I saw. I never knew it was this street. "Why didn't you tell me when Marcus came here?" "Because I had no proof he was connected to the tunnel. And I didn't want you to look at me the way you're looking at me now." Her laugh held no humor. "So you protected yourself by deciding what I deserved to know." "That wasn't what I meant. It is what you did." The comparison to Caleb sat between us without being spoken. It cut deeper, because I had earned it. "No." She faced me again. "You were the first person in a long time who made me feel like my instincts mattered. Then you withheld the one fact that would have helped me understand what was happening. I was scared. So was I in that basement. I still told you the truth. She left. The next morning, a city inspector arrived at her house with an emergency notice. The retaining wall had allegedly shifted. Her basement was declared unsafe pending a structural review. The notice cited an electrical hazard, moisture intrusion, and risk of partial collapse. Attached to the file was a preliminary assessment bearing my name and license number. "Did you sign this?" she asked. "No. The license number is mine, but I did not inspect your house for Marcus." "How can I know that?" "Because I'm telling you. Caleb told me things too. The city ordered her out of the basement until Monday's review. Without access to the workshop space, she risked losing a hotel restoration contract that could establish her business. Marcus's offer expired that evening. I can prove I didn't sign it." "How?" "The report's certificate should trace to the device that issued it. Then I go after whoever used it." She looked exhausted. "My attorney says fighting the city could take months." Marcus increased the offer. "You are considering it. I am considering keeping my business alive. If you sell because someone terrorized you, they win." Her eyes flashed. "Do not make this about courage. You have a house, a license, and a business that can survive a delay. I have one major contract and a bank account that has been shrinking since January. I'm sorry," I said, "for the report, even though I didn't sign it, for hiding what I knew, for acting like protecting you gave me the right to control the decision. What are you going to do? Find the truth before your deadline. It is in 3 hours. Then I have 3 hours." I drove to the regional licensing office with the forged assessment and called every former employee at Hart Urban who still answered my number. Most refused to speak. One told me to stop digging. Then my former office manager, Nia Patel, called back. "Your signature certificate was never deactivated," she said. "Marcus kept it on the field tablet assigned to Caleb Ross." "Caleb works for Marcus?" "Since last summer. And there is something else. Your property purchase was listed internally as an access acquisition. Marcus reimbursed the realtor's commission. Marcus had not merely helped me find a home, he had placed me beside Emily because my basement opened into the service tunnel. Whether he expected me to cooperate or remain ignorant, I had been part of the plan from the beginning. My phone flashed with a motion alert. The camera feed loaded. A man in a dark jacket entered the tunnel and turned toward the lens. Caleb smiled directly at the camera before the feed went black. I drove home while calling the police. When the responding officers arrived, I showed them the saved image. They entered the vacant property while I checked my basement. The plywood door stood open. On the floor lay Emily's brass workshop key. I called Emily at the bank. "Stay there. Caleb is in the tunnel." Her breathing changed. "He was in my kitchen this morning. I thought I had left a drawer open. Daniel, my grandmother's deed box is missing. The original property covenant is in that box. It proves my lot controls access to the alley. Without it, Marcus can claim the easement was abandoned. I understand that Caleb wants you scared and rushed. Do not give him what he wants. I am done letting men tell me what choice I am allowed to make." The police searched the tunnel and vacant house. Caleb had vanished again, but this time they found a backpack containing pry bars, gloves, and copies of Emily's emails with her attorney. There was enough for a warrant, not enough to know where he had gone. I met her at the curb. "Did you sign?" "No. I asked for a 24-hour extension," she said. "The bank gave me until tomorrow because the city notice may be fraudulent. It was my decision." "Yes. I kept my distance." It was. One officer escorted Emily inside to pack clothes. Her house was not officially cleared for overnight occupancy. I offered my guest room. She chose a hotel. Before she left, I gave her the records from Nia and explained how Marcus had used me as an access point. The shame of it made my voice rough. "I never knew," I said, "but I was still the door he counted on." Emily held the papers against her chest. "You are not responsible for what he planned. I am responsible for what I hid after I began to suspect." She waited, as if I might ask for forgiveness. I did not. Forgiveness, demanded before trust returned, was just another form of pressure. "The first night," she said without turning, "when the lights went out, I did not grab you, only because I was afraid of the dark." She looked back at me. Rain shone in her hair. "I trusted you before I had a reason to." The next morning, I obtained an independent structural review showing the wall was stable and filed a complaint over the forged report. Marcus arrived with attorneys and found me replacing Emily's lock. "You are throwing away your future over a woman who will never trust you again," he said. "Maybe she won't. That does not change what is right." I accused him of leaving my signature certificate active on Caleb's tablet and using my house to control the tunnel. Marcus denied ordering any crime, but admitted he had known the service corridor existed and had hired Caleb because he understood the property. What we built was supposed to keep people safe, I said. What we built was a company, he answered. Companies survive by winning. The city postponed the condemnation hearing, while police reviewed the fraud evidence. Emily gained a week, but Caleb remained missing, and the deed box was gone. For 6 days, Emily and I spoke only about locks, reports, and court dates. She stayed at a hotel. I did not ask her to forgive me. Trust demanded on a schedule was just another kind of control. On the 7th evening, a storm rolled over Pittsburgh. I was securing my tunnel door when Emily called. "I'm in the house," she said. "Why?" "I got a message from Caleb. He said the deed box was behind the workshop wall, and that if I wanted it before the house flooded, I had to come alone. I called the detective first. They are on the way." "Where are you?" "In the basement." "Emily? He's here." The call cut off. I tore the bar from my tunnel door and ran into the passage. Water already streamed along the brick floor from the storm. My flashlight bounced over the walls as I moved. Halfway to the junction, I smelled gasoline. I reached Emily's hidden door and found it blocked from her side. I hit it with my shoulder. Once, twice. The frame splintered. Emily stood near the far wall. Caleb held one arm around her shoulders and a utility knife against her side. He was thinner than I expected, with rain-plastered hair and the strained smile of a man desperate to look in control. On the floor sat a metal deed box. Marcus stood beside the furnace. "Daniel," he said, "you were told to stay out of this." Emily's eyes met mine. She was frightened, but she was not broken. "Let her go," I said. "Are you hurt?" "No." Caleb tightened his grip. "She will be if you come closer." Thunder cracked overhead. The basement lights flashed on, then off. Caleb jerked at the sound. Emily moved. She drove her heel down on his foot and twisted out of his arm. The knife sliced her coat but missed her body. I crossed the room before Caleb recovered and hit him hard enough to send the knife skidding under the workbench. He tackled me into a support post. Pain exploded across my shoulder. We fell against the furnace. Marcus shouted at us to stop, but did nothing to help. Emily grabbed the deed box. Caleb saw her and lunged. I caught his jacket, but he tore free and swung the lantern from the bench. It struck the stone wall and shattered. Flame raced across the gasoline on the floor. The fire climbed between us and the stairs. Smoke thickened instantly. He shoved the hidden door open, but a surge of storm water slammed through the passage, carrying mud and debris. The outer hatch must have failed. Water flooded the basement floor while flames crawled across the floating gasoline in broken orange lines. Caleb panicked. He pushed Marcus aside and tried to enter the tunnel. A section of old brick collapsed with a roar, blocking the passage and pinning his leg. "Help me!" he screamed. Then I saw Emily looking at me, not asking, choosing to believe I would be better than the men who had used fear as permission. I moved to Caleb and lifted the fallen timber off his leg. Marcus helped after a moment, coughing in the smoke. We dragged Caleb clear. "The stairs are blocked," Emily shouted. Flames had reached the bottom steps. "There's another exit," she said. "Where?" "The coal chute. It's too narrow. For you, maybe. Not for me." She ran to the side wall, climbed onto a storage chest, and forced open the iron chute door. Rain poured through. "I can get outside and open the cellar doors from above," she said. "No," I said. "The chute may collapse." Her face turned toward me through the smoke. "You told me he doesn't choose what happens next." "Emily, my choice." I stopped. She pushed the deed box into my hands, then climbed into the chute. I wanted to follow, protect, control, do anything except stand there while she disappeared into a dark opening. But love, I realized, was not proving I could make every decision for her. It was trusting the strength she had fought to reclaim. "Go," I said. She crawled upward. Then metal rattled above us. The chain fell. The doors burst open under the weight of rain and firefighters. Fresh air rushed in. Hands pulled Caleb out first, then Marcus. I climbed halfway and turned back. Emily stood in the yard, soaked and shaking, but upright. I handed the deed box to a detective, then stepped toward her. She looked at the cut in my shirt, the soot on my face, and the blood running from my shoulder. "You went back for Caleb," she said. "I almost didn't. But you did." Rain moved between us in silver sheets. Sirens painted the houses red and blue. Emily crossed the distance and wrapped both arms around me. This time, she was not clinging because the lights had gone out. She was holding me, because she had chosen to. I put my arms around her carefully. "I'm sorry," I said into her wet hair, "for every truth I made you drag out of me. I'm still angry. You should be. I do not know how long it will take to trust you completely. I'll take whatever time you choose." She pulled back enough to look at me. "That is the first correct thing you have said all week." The police arrested Caleb at the hospital. Marcus was charged later with conspiracy, fraud, unlawful entry, and evidence tampering. The deed box contained the original covenant, but it also contained something none of us expected: letters between Emily's grandmother and my father. They had worked together years earlier to stop the first attempt to demolish the block. My father had inspected the shared tunnel and warned that any redevelopment would need the written consent of all 3 homeowners. He had kept a copy of the report, but after his death, Marcus had buried it in company archives. One letter from Emily's grandmother mentioned me by name. "Thomas says his younger boy understands that houses are promises," she had written. "Maybe one day he will remember that when the older one forgets." I read the sentence 3 times. Emily sat beside me at her kitchen table, the house smelling of smoke and rain. "Your father knew my grandmother?" I asked. "My grandmother knew everyone. He thought I understood promises." "You do. I broke yours. You broke my trust. That is not the same as being incapable of earning it again." I looked at her. "Do you want me to?" She did not answer immediately. That mattered. She was not being swept into forgiveness by danger or gratitude. "I want to see whether you can tell the truth when it does not make you look good," she said. "I want you to stop treating usefulness as the price of being loved. And I want no secret business deals between our basements. That last one feels manageable. The first 2 are non-negotiable." "I know." She held my gaze. "Then yes. Earn it." So I did. Trust did not return in a dramatic rush. It came in ordinary pieces. I testified against Marcus, even though his attorney warned that I could lose my license for failing to secure the digital certificate. I disclosed every record, including the ones that showed how long I had ignored warning signs. The state placed me under review, and I accepted it. Emily defeated the condemnation order. The wall needed maintenance, not demolition. Hart Urban's plan collapsed. Caleb accepted a prison sentence and permanent protective order, and Marcus faced fraud and conspiracy charges. In court, Caleb tried to apologize. Emily told him remorse did not require access to her, then walked away. 6 weeks later, she invited me to eat takeout on her back steps. "How is the license review?" she asked. Humbling. "That is not a status update. They decide next month. I am scared." She nodded, satisfied by the direct answer. "Better." Her hotel client had ordered 6 more tables. I told her we should celebrate with champagne. She said I owned 2 mugs and needed supervision. "I want to kiss you," I said. "That is unusually honest. I'm practicing." "You should also practice waiting for an answer." I waited. "Yes." I kissed her slowly. She leaned closer and touched my face, and the quiet certainty of it meant more than urgency ever had. By summer, her basement had become the workshop she imagined. The tunnel was sealed under city supervision, but she restored the hidden wooden door and mounted it on the wall. Above it hung a brass plaque: "No secret passages." I installed backup lights and a locked breaker. She tested them herself. The room stayed bright. The state cleared my license after a reprimand and ethics training. I started a smaller company with Nia, while Emily's furniture business grew enough for her to hire an apprentice. We told each other difficult truths before they became secrets. One evening she received a permanent design partnership that required regular travel. My first instinct was fear. My second was honesty. "I will miss you," I said, "but I love that you built a life big enough to leave this street and still choose to come home." She stared at me. I had not planned to say the word. "I love you," I continued. "Not because you needed me in a basement. I love you because you choose for yourself, even when your choice scares me." She took my hand. "I love you too. But love does not make us mind readers. No secrets. No deciding for each other. No secret passages. Especially those." A year after the night in the basement, we hosted an open house for Emily's workshop. Neighbors filled the yard. The City Preservation Board presented her with a small grant to train young craftspeople, and she displayed the restored hidden door as a reminder that old structures could hold both damage and possibility. Near sunset, I found her downstairs adjusting a lamp over the walnut workbench. "You are missing your own party," I said. I needed one quiet minute. I leaned against the doorway. "Want company?" She considered me with exaggerated seriousness. "Do you have a flashlight?" "Always." The overhead lights went out. I froze. Then warm battery lights came on around the room, one after another. Emily stood by the switch, grinning. You did that on purpose, I said. I wanted to test your system. You tested it yesterday. I wanted to test you. She crossed the room and slipped her arms around my waist, just as she had the first night. But her grip was relaxed. Her cheek rested over my heart. Scared? I asked. Not of the dark. Of what then? How much I have to lose now? I held her closer. Me too. She looked up. That is not very reassuring. It is honest. Better. I reached into my pocket and took out a small wooden box she had made months earlier. Her eyes widened. Daniel, I am not asking because we survived something. I am asking because of every ordinary day after it. The coffee, the arguments, the truth, even when it hurts, the doors we open on purpose. I opened the box. Inside was my mother's ring, reset by a local jeweler, with a narrow band of dark walnut beneath the stone. Emily covered her mouth. I love you, I said. Will you marry me? She looked at the ring, then at the workshop, then back at me. I could see every part of her choosing. Yes. The word was quiet and certain. I slid the ring onto her finger. She pulled me up and kissed me while the backup lights glowed around us. Upstairs, someone called her name. The party continued. Life continued. Nothing had become perfectly safe, because love was not a lock against loss. It was the promise to face what came without hiding the doors from each other. Before we returned to our guests, Emily touched the brass plaque above the sealed passage. No secret passages, she said. No darkness alone, I answered. She took my hand, and together we climbed the stairs into the light. If this story stayed with you, remember this. Real love does not silence fear or make every shadow disappear. It tells the truth, respects the choice, and stays long enough to rebuild trust. Like, subscribe, and share what trust means to you.